Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Professor Bauer. Welcome to ICT 4670, Disaster Recovery and Business Continuity Planning. This is an exciting course about a real scary thing. So I hope you're not freaking out already. But if you're not worried, you're not paying attention, as they used to say at Microsoft. I have had a fair amount of experience in this subject, and so if I speak with a few anecdotes illustrated, I could probably tell you more and put everyone to sleep. But the purpose of the video this week, we have a roadmap every week to introduce the coming week, talk about some of the things that you need to pay attention to, maybe offer some reasons why this particular material is important, and any guides on the homework or the assignments. It's good to meet all of you, at least virtually. A bit about me is posted in the discussion area and some of my experiences, and I really like helping my students in ways that help further their career, and there's some information in there if you'd like to link to me and LinkedIn. And by the way, I will not sell anything, but if I can help you in any way, put in a good word where it needs to be, I'd be glad to help out. Let's look at our agenda just at a quick glance. A lot more material in the syllabus. Take the time, good half hour to walk through it. I know some of you are rookies and you're terrified and you're going to memorize it all, and that's great. But some of you have been here before, and this isn't your first DU rodeo. But go ahead and read it through just to make sure you're on the same page as the rest of us. Why is this course important? Take a look at that. Why am I spending valuable hours in my life learning these things? You deserve an answer to that, and we'll get one. We'll look at the overview of what we're going to cover in the course. What we're doing in week one, and resources. Very important on the resources. There's no textbook to read and memorize, so you're going to have to be digitally nimble, get around, get online, use the resources that we put out there, or wave your hand and say, hey, they're not here, so that we can get them. You know, things tend to migrate around from term to term, so we want to make sure things work well for you. We'll look at the schedule of the synchronous courses. Keep in mind, this is a course that has a regular meeting place, albeit virtual, Wednesday at 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. How to succeed in the course. Just handy tips, some from DU, some from good old Professor Bauer, just to help you to succeed, do well, learn a ton, and have some fun along the way. And use this in a way that you'll not only get a good grade, but this will further your career. Okay, let's dig in. Why is this course important? If you don't know that it's important, you are not paying attention in the digital world today. Data and information, more than ever before, are the coin of the realm. If you don't control your data, your information, you're out of control, and you're prey to the least talented script kiddie out there, and in some cases some very sophisticated cyber criminal activity. We'll talk about those, not to scare you, but to prepare you and your company. And this is too important to just be left in the hands of the IT geeks. And you know, I used to be one, but then I worked in management, and I found that my concerns about these areas had to be not as technically deep, but had to be more complex. And so it's not a case of knowing the ones and zeros, but it is a case of knowing policies, implications, budgets, considerations, role-playing, test, and then when things happen, you don't freak out. And those are not things that come easily, so we'll talk about them. I had a dentist one time who said, brush only those teeth you want to keep. And that sounds really kind of a profound statement of the obvious. But it goes that way with data and security and disaster recovery and business continuity planning. Protect those information assets that you want to hang on to. And if you don't, you won't. And, I never have to tell people to back up stuff. I used to spend half of my days as a CIO telling my department heads, telling the business units to make sure and this and that, and particularly with private data. Then someone lost something and never backed it up and couldn't find it. We didn't have a backup because it was never put on the network drives or shares or way before cloud. And you know what? I didn't have to talk to them anymore because, that was it. They knew that if they didn't brush those teeth, they would lose them. If they didn't back up those assets, they would lose them. So keep that in mind. And sooner or later, I don't like to share bad news, but sooner or later, this will happen to you. Personally, someone in your family, a loved one, or someone or your entire organization or division will be the victim of an exploit, some other kind of difficulty, and you'll want to make sure that you're prepared for it. So remember the 5 P's. Prior planning prevents poor performance. The 5 P's that Mr. Bauer learned at West Point when he was a cadet 150 years ago. All right, here's the overview for the course. Not going to read the slide to you, but you will see that there's a lot of interesting topics, and we're going to get information from the sources. There is no textbook. I think someone should write one, but this particular field changes so quickly, it's hard to pin down. As soon as you have an exploit or a risk that's been mitigated, then the bad guys, the bad actors move to some other way to exploit. So something to be careful about. But we'll look at the major areas, the things that your company probably has plans on. And if it doesn't, you could really help. I hope that you would have the discussion with your boss, your management, about what you're learning in this space, and that you'll be able to have a coherent discussion, not at the ones and zeros, like I said, but at the conceptual, at the policy making level, so that you'll be effective. This is going to help you as an executive. This is important because, like I said, it's too important to leave to the IT folks. Okay? All right. As you look on the particular assignments, there's assignments every week, so make sure you check the modules, check the assignments. It's all written there in Canvas. Nobody is hiding anything, but you have to go and get it. But there are some of particular moment. You have a couple of case studies. You've got a portfolio assignment to come up with a DRBC, the kind of disaster recovery business continuity. You'll hear me say DRBC because it's just a lot of words, and so that way you can hang around the water cooler at the office. Yeah, I was working on my DRBC planning here and had to write an executive presentation for it. Now, these are worth a fair amount of points. We'll keep that in mind. So, week 1 assignments here for you. Be clear on them. Class introductions, just as I've introduced myself, and some of you have already done that as well. Please introduce yourself. That's due, of course, by Wednesday midnight. If for some reason you don't see those discussions, please ping me. We've had a couple of situations where they were not showing for one particular student or another, and we just want to make sure that everything's working this first week. Remember, this is technology, and when things work beautifully, we're always a little bit surprised. So keep that in mind. You've got some readings and some discussion, so keep that in mind this week. Kind of getting our hands around the subject area so that we'll be more effective. Okay. Every assignment has a rubric. A rubric is a scaffolding that says, the the professor's not doesn't have a Ouija board or a dartboard where he or she throws a dart at the wall and that's your grade. There's some objective criteria that you can look at and say, okay, this is what makes an A, this is what makes a B, and this is why you didn't get those. Okay, and we're a data-driven enterprise, and we're data-driven in our grading as well. So we don't practice having a particular set of grades and only give out 3 A's and 2 B's and etc. That whole distribution kind of thing. If you want a great grade, work hard. There's really nothing more than that. But because these assignments are complex, it's more than just, okay, I got to do a paper. But look in the rubric, look in the assignment first, and say, okay, what is it that needs to be in the paper? And you'll generally find that the order of things that are listed is the order that they probably should be presented in the paper, in the assignment, in the PowerPoint, and whatever it is you're doing, the group assignment. And so keep those things in mind. In terms of resources, as I said earlier, this course doesn't have a textbook, so we'll be putting links there. Make sure you can find them. I have found that just spending 20-30 minutes and just downloading everything, saving it as PDF if it's not already, parking it in my iDrive or my Share or on my desktop is a good way to start, so that Sunday afternoon when I have to read that document and I can't find it, I'm not freaking out. All right, with not much time. Remember, we're planning for disaster. Okay, so we want your educational continuity to work as well. Schedule for the synchronous Zoom classes 7 to 8 Mountain Time. I live in Colorado, and we start this week at the 16th and end on November 18th. November 18th seems miles and miles away, but it will get here. 10 weeks go by fast, so jump on this and get going. There was an email I sent out yesterday that has all the coordinates for that. It's always good to, on the first time you're logging into a Zoom meeting, start a little bit earlier. 6:59 and 30 seconds may not be the right time to do that, so go ahead and start a bit earlier. Now let's talk about the important thing, the thing you're wondering. I want to do well in the course. That's great. Appreciate your initiative and your desire, but wanting to and doing are two different things, right? If wishes were horses, then everyone would ride, as my late father used to say. This is a fast-paced course, lots of information. And you may not have a foundation in this particular area. You should have had the technical foundations as a prereq, but on the other hand, maybe you don't know your way around a data center. That's okay. Maybe I don't know my way around your particular domain specialty. And that's why I'm going to ask you for help if I needed to learn it. So if something is a little bit off, or you don't understand what is digital storage, what's network storage, what's cloud, whatever, and we may do some refresher from here and there. But after the Zoom class, I'll hang out, take some office hours if you want to sit and discuss things. I mean, not mandatory, but if you have some questions, we can walk through and I can point out some resources. All right, the material's cumulative, so don't expect to wake up in the middle of the term and be ready to finish out what you have to do week 5 or 6 or 7. It's building, and it will encompass material that has been previously discussed and thought and responded to. So keep that in mind. Stay engaged in the discussions. Mr. Bauer is a very old, grizzled man. I have 3 brain cells working. But I can tell when somebody is putting a comment in at about 10:30 p.m. on Sunday night. Usually it's about 2 or 3 sentences long, and it's kind of like, wow, that was a great comment. Wow, that was really deep. instead of really being engaged, and of course, no one else is there, so you don't have much of a response and an interaction. So, pick a time a couple times a week. Just schedule it like you would a meeting, and then interact with the things that have been posted. The earlier you do that, the richer it will be and the more helpful it will be, okay? Get involved in that. Don't just phone it in digitally, okay? The Me Too kinds of comments are just not really that good, okay? Let's talk about disaster planning in terms of your own personal schedule and your own personal life. Stuff happens. And I know all of you have day jobs. All of you have other responsibilities, relationships, families, other obligations. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. If you haven't woken up and realized that yet, it's profoundly changing the way we're doing education. And I know all of you have jobs that require you to drop everything when your boss says, go do this, or we're being audited, or I need this, or the project is being held up because of a deliverable sitting on your desk. Don't move until that gets done. Sometimes that affects your schoolwork. I understand that. All right. But my late father, you're going to get tired of hearing all my late father's things. I might make a book on this someday. But he was famous for saying, bad news does not improve with age. Please don't call me the last week of the term, having ducked weeks and weeks of grades, saying, hey, I need more time. I run out of time to be flexible and gracious and carve a way out around difficulties that no one can get around. Okay, samsara, the Buddhists call it. Stuff happens, as the bumper sticker calls it. But we can work things out. Those students who've worked with me know that. But if you try to avoid the responsibilities instead of talking them out, that's when my hands are tied in some of these areas, and it's more driven by DU rules than my graciousness. So anyway, and total humility. Now seriously, let me know if you get hammered by something. Maybe I can give advice, but at least we can craft a schedule that allows you to stay up at the minimums, and then use time in when things get a little bit less hectic, and work those out. So keep those things in mind. Here's my contact information. I prefer email. It's just easier. I get, like all of us, we get spam, and sometimes we don't recognize people's phone numbers. So, but for office hours, I'm usually there. I'll stay after class, and if we need a private session on Zoom or something to walk through your paper or something like that, we can set that up as well. Okay, week 1 is here. Prepare for disaster. The end is near. I feel like some guy on a street corner, but you know what? Disasters can be mitigated. We'll learn about companies that planned, and we'll learn about companies that didn't. So anyway, everyone loves a train wreck. I don't know what it is, but I think if we can look at these situations and learn from them, we'll be better business people. Men and women who understand how valuable our digital data is. And maybe we're not ultimately responsible. We may not be the CISO, but we have a stake in this. Our stock price will get hammered. Our company may disappear. These are the kinds of things now where the more we do digitally, the more the implications of losing that become. Thanks for listening. Have a great first week. See you soon on class on Wednesday night. Bye-bye now.